Hello, Abbott's Creek students. I'm Anna Padres.
And I'm Keith Norval.
And we are painters here in Raleigh. And welcome to our studio. This is where we create all of our paintings. So I like to paint animals in nature a lot of the time. So here's a painting that I did. It's a llama, and there's a lot of birds flying in the air. And I like to paint clouds and trees and plants and stuff too. And I like to use a lot of different colors.
So this is one of my paintings. So this is an owl family. So my work, I like to do sort of cartoony, stylized stuff. So this is not quite a super accurate owl, but it's my version of it. So this is an owl family, and I decided I wanted to make them purple.
Alright, so we are here today to talk to you guys about the mural that we're going to be working with you guys on. So let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So this is a sketch that I did of our idea for the mural, like I talked about in the live meet with you guys. You can see it a little closer here. So it shows the three palettes: the blue palette, the green palette, and the earth tone palette. This is just a rough sketch. When you guys do your animal paintings, it's going to look a lot different. From far away, it'll look like a landscape, and from close up, you will be able to see a lot of different creatures. Okay, so we are going to show you guys some examples of some different North Carolina creatures and plants that you're likely to see in the woods. Feel free to use any of the examples we give you, or if you can come up with some new and different ones on your own. There's literally like hundreds of things you can pick from. Just make sure it's something that you would see in North Carolina. Here we have a beautiful gray wolf. We have wolves and coyotes here in North Carolina. Here is a cougar or a mountain lion. Here we have some wild turkeys. Here's a raccoon. A white-tailed deer. A groundhog. An opossum. Common gray squirrel. A skunk. A flying squirrel. A chipmunk. A bunny rabbit. A box turtle. A blue-tailed skink. A black snake. A copperhead. A swallowtail butterfly. A moth. A black widow spider. A garden spider. A cicada. A titmouse. A chickadee. A nuthatch. A black and white warbler. A brown thrasher. A hermit thrush. A native thistle. Ferns. And mushrooms. Hello, blue palette people. I am here. I've got my painting area all set up. I have a tablecloth to protect my table. I have a paper plate to mix colors on. If you don't have a paper plate, you can use some, you probably need more than one, but you can use lids of a can or any kind of thing. Tinfoil works. Any kind of surface. So I am going to get out our colors. So we have, in the blue palette, we have white, cerulean blue, turquoise, and ultramarine blue. So a lot of my favorite colors here. So there's a lot of different things we can do, ways we can mix these colors up. I'm going to mix a few colors for you guys. The animal that I'm choosing to do with this color palette is not a blue animal at all. It is a bat. So it's okay to pick any kind of animal. It doesn't have to be a blue animal. These are going to end up going in the sky and in the water on the big mural that we put together. So I'm going to start by just kind of... Where's my palette knife? This is better, actually. If you have a palette knife, it's better for mixing colors. But if you don't have one, you can use like your brush or a plastic knife or anything. I like to mix up a few colors before I get started. So I'm gonna just make kind of a lighter color of each blue by mixing white in. A light turquoise. A little white in there. A light cerulean blue. So the cerulean blue leans more towards the green shade, and the ultramarine leans a little more towards the purple shade. And you can see they're pretty different. Okay, and so now I'm gonna make some even lighter kind of pastel versions of my turquoise. I really like a light turquoise, so I'm gonna make one to use. Really pale turquoise for my highlights. And then I'll just use a little bit of ultramarine so I can make a really light version of that too with my white. I'm mixing a little cerulean in there too, that's okay. Okay, so I like to do a lot of drawing with my paintbrush. I don't draw my image out with a pencil first. Mr. Keith does, and you'll see him do that in the next video. But basically what I do is I get kind of a medium brush and I pick one of my lighter colors, and then I'm looking here at this picture of this big-eared bat. Let's see. This one right here. And I'm gonna kind of, first I gotta make sure I have room for his wings, because it would be kind of bad if his wings went off the side of the page. So I've got to kind of measure out, he's got to be a lot smaller for his wings to work out. And then his tail, and then his head, his big ears. So he's got kind of a finger-like thing coming up the top here, and then his wing kind of comes down, and then here, same thing, kind of a fingery thing, and then his wing, and then it goes. There's his tail. It swoops 1, 2, 3 times. So now I'm going to try to draw out some of the details with a darker. So he's got kind of a bone that goes up here to his finger, and then he has other kind of bone-like things coming down to the tips of his wings. Here's his body is a lot lighter. I'm going to use a lighter color. Well, it blended a little bit, but that's okay. And then his tail is right here, and so his legs are kind of connected into his tail, and then he has his little, I'm gonna have to use my smaller brush for that part. And then he's got a bone coming like that, and then his other arm comes out and up. It's not really his arm, but part of his wing that looks kind of arm-like. And then he's got these kind of ribs that attach to each little point on his wing. So that's his basic shape. And so now I'm going to go in and trace it with a darker blue so it shows up a little better. And then I'm going to fill it in with some lighter blue colors. So I am not going, you know, in art, of course, you guys know, you don't have to ever copy anything exactly. Some people love to do realistic art, and if that's you, you can do it. But for this project, we're not looking for you to make something perfectly realistic. We're just looking for some cool looking animals that are in the palettes that we're going to use. So, you know, he's not going to be realistic anyway because he's blue. So, okay, so his body is like kind of light. And then I'm just going to use the colors that I feel like using here. Because that's what art is about. It's kind of like you do what you want. So I'm just doing some different shades of that I've mixed over here. And they're not going to be the exact same from side to side. Actually, I want to fill in this darker so it shows up. And then, let's see, do a lighter shade here. And while your paint is still wet, you're going to be able to mix and blend your colors together. Okay. Okay, so I got to the point where I could with this bigger brush, and now to do some of the smaller details, I'm transitioning down to my small brush. So I'm gonna take some of this dark blue and get the eyes on. And then I'm mixing my two blue colors, hopefully make it really dark. Because his ears are already dark, and I'm trying to, you know what, instead of darkening them, I'm gonna add a highlight to kind of define them a little more. And then he's got a little bit of a pointy nose that comes out here. His face is really small. And then I never did fill out that side. And then of course his little tiny little feet coming out, and he's got these kind of like hooks here. So of course you guys know that in painting it's a lot different than drawing. Like in drawing you have a lot more control and you can do a lot more tiny details. In painting you kind of have to let go of that and just be loose to some extent, because your brush is a lot bigger than your pencil is, and getting those tiny details, you can do it, but it's just different. So with this, it's more about picking up the highlights and shadows rather than drawing in every tiny little thing. So I'm going into his wings and adding some highlights where I'm seeing them in the picture, and just mixing some white into the colors that were already there. So smoothing out some of my brush strokes. Okay, so now I want to give him a background, because just to cover in some of this white. So I'm going to take some of these light colors that I mixed. Uh-oh, this brush had some brown in it from the previous painting session. So I'm doing kind of just like some circles, and this is also a chance for me to come up here and trim down my bat's body. Just to kind of like shape it a little better. And I'm trying not to go over my bat's feet too much. I can draw those back in though if I need to. So different shades of blue, and just I'm using some of the white to make the blue a little lighter. It doesn't matter if it blends in a little bit with what's already there. And then while it's still wet, I can come get some white and do some clouds. Or I can do some like water shapes with a little bit of the darker blue, or maybe a little bit of both. So let me get the top part of this. I'm actually gonna flip it so it's easier for me to reach. And then I'm gonna fill in the top. Get a little more white. Okay. I'm almost finished with this bat. And get the background down here too. I get to the edge of the paper, I'm pretty glad I'm working on this tablecloth, because my brush is totally going off the side a little bit. If you don't fill yours to the edge, that's okay. Don't ruin your table. Keith and I can trim your paper down if we need to. Okay, so I am going to get some more white and do some more clouds, because I love painting clouds. And they're just circles, and you do them while your paint is still wet, and it just blends. The colors just blend, and that's how you make clouds. just like that. So that is going to be my bat painting.
Okay, so I am working with the blue palette as well. And for my image, I've decided to do a bass. So I found a good photo online, so that's a good way to get your reference. And I think instead of doing it just flat, I think I'll angle it a little bit. So with mine, I will sketch it out. So I have this red pencil. I know it's still kind of hard for you guys to see, but just kind of get like the basic shape of it before I get started. And I could turn it this way. So in my artwork, in my paintings, I do a lot of fish paintings. They're a little bit more cartoony and stylized than this one. So this will be fun to do a more realistic one. But I'm going to put like another eye over here just for fun. Make it a little bit more cartoony. And then it's got a fin down here. And then a fin right there. So I know it's probably a little tricky to see, but and mine's maybe a little more squished in, but that's okay. All right, so Miss Anna already has some colors mixed up, so I think the first thing I will do with mine is just kind of get the basic outline. So I'll use this cerulean blue. But maybe I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. So usually with all my paintings, I'll start with like the eyes or the eyes in the mouth. So that's kind of a traditional starting point. So it's got some spines on this fin that are poking up. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. So maybe I think I'll fill in the background and then paint the fish in. So what I'll do is get my larger brush and I will mix. I'm going to do kind of a lighter color. So maybe get a little turquoise, a little bit of the cerulean. I'm going to mix a little bit of each color and see what happens. Yeah, so that looks good. So when I come up right by the edge, I'm going a little bit more slowly, just so I don't get too much of the other color. But I'm just blending it in. If you pick up a little bit, like Miss Anna did too, you can just blend it into your background color. And I kind of like some of these brush strokes. It looks like maybe there's like a little movement going on there. And then maybe I'll pick up some of this turquoise, do some wiggly lines. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to take a look at this fish, and I'll see that it has kind of some little dots on some of its scales. So I'm going to do some dots, and then maybe that's a little bit too dark, so I'll come back with a lighter color. And then in order not to lose the outline of my fish, I will mix up like kind of a few shades lighter of a blue. Kind of like this blue we have on the palette. So let's see. So I may go a little bit lighter than that. So you can always put your color down, try it, and then see how it looks. And then the trick when you're mixing like a light color, you want to add a dot of your darker color, like your blue in this, for instance, in this case. So, you know, put your white down and then add a dot of your darker color to your white. That way you're not using up all your white, trying to lighten one color. And then I can also pick up a little bit, just some white on the end of my brush, and put that down. So then I think, let's get back into my phone, I think on the fins, there's some little lines. Okay, yeah, so the bottom ones, they're not as defined, but I will go ahead and add some lines to those fins. So I think I like this turquoise, so that's good. A few little lines there. And then if I want to go back and just redo these scales a little bit. So that's the fun thing about acrylic. You can put something down and then go back over it and kind of blend back into it. And then I'll refine these lines a little bit more. So now I'm just sort of going back over my outline where I painted over it a bit. Just making sure I have my fish to where it stands out how I want it. So I do this a lot with my own paintings. I might paint something and then paint around it and then go back and kind of fix it, or, you know, redo the outline just to fix, you know, if I painted over the edge. So that way you guys don't have to worry about, you know, okay, it's got to be exactly perfect, you know, the first time. That's the thing about painting. Like once you start painting a lot, you realize you can just, you know, kind of put something down and then go back and fix it if you don't like it. It doesn't have to be like perfect right up from the very beginning. Okay, so I think the final thing, I just want to add maybe a little white So I've noticed I have this spot down here where I didn't blend it, so I'm just going to add some white. Go back over that. And maybe a little, I'm going to fill in these eyes just a little bit. And then I think I will add maybe some motion lines with white. And I think I want to, let me redo this eye. I'm going to fix this eye. So on my own paintings, this is sort of how I paint eyes. I have one eye popping up on my fish. And the fun thing, like if you look right here, you can see, you know, I picked up a few different colors and I really like that, so I'll leave that. And then the final thing, I will add a little highlight back into this eye. Oh, and fix the shape a little bit. Okay, so I think that looks good. So then I'll just let that dry and it will be ready to put into the mural.